Ani Ledodi of the Rabbi Maamar Melukot Chelik Daled, page Shin Samach Zayin, A Zayin, 5 lines in the end of the page, in the middle of A Zayin. Okay, yesterday we were learning that through this, that the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim awaken the real will in the Jew, so that causes an elevation even in the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. Why? Because the whole world was created for Yidden, and therefore the Yerida was for the Yidden, so self-understood that the greater the descent, the greater the elevation. And like he says, that there's Soda of Kedusha, Melech Basoda, then you have the Soda of evil of Yosef. Okay? So he says like this, Valpi Mashakos is based on what it says in the Zohar. Is Soda, is Soda. There's two types of field of Kedusha and evil. Sada the Kedusha v'Sada the Lumazem Yeshleimer, you could say the Inyan L'Melech L'Sada Nevad. This aspect that the king is bound to the field because the king needs to sustain himself from food of the field. Shayedei Ayiridav Amshachol L'Sada, that through this that the king comes down into the field, becomes a greater greatness in the king himself. B'Melech Ilon the Yugimul Midas Rachmim, who beikers primarily. Right, that through the level of revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim, which he says is, generally speaking, it's called Melech Ilah, the higher level of Melech. Higam Yisrael Nimtzoim Bamidbar, is not only to the Jews in the Soda, but even the Jews in the Midbar. Because if you're talking about Soda of Kedusha, a field of Kedusha, and you're talking about a field of evil, primarily the field of evil is Midbar. Not Soda, we're talking about real evil. Soda delumazah. Shaydei zem is gala rasana pnimi shalahem. This causes that even the Jews that are so far out, they're in a level of Midbar, they also become stimulated. Their real Ratzon is revealed, and they go out from the Midbar, which is Sada L'Umzeh of Sada the Kedusha, to receive the king. In other words, the Rebbe is explaining that this level of Melech Basoda, that through the king coming out, Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim, it awakens the real essence of the Jew. So the primary level of that is, where is the primary level of Melech Basoda? Is primarily in the Jews that are in Midbar. Because when you reveal the essence of a Jew that's very low, it's a greater accomplishment than revealing the essence of the neshama of a person on a lofty level. So if the king is coming down into the Soda to affect Midbar, he said before, the Rabbi explained, you can't come in, a king can't come into Midbar, because Kedusha can't come into evil. But by coming into Soda, it stimulates the Jews in Midbar. It stimulates the Jews in Midbar to awaken their pnimius dika ratzain, who they really are. So that level exists primarily in the king coming out to the Midbar.
Has the power to change the life of the Jews for next year?
Yeah.
So you're saying that one Jew can affect non-observant Jews?
He's not saying about one Jew, he's saying about the king coming out in the field, but that's a separate statement. Every Jew, the Rambam says, so it's, kosher. He's a Sephardi, so the Rambam is kosher, you guys. The Rambam says, one thought, one speech, one action can affect and change the entire world for good. Or God forbid the opposite. But here we're talking about the king, Hashem revealing himself in the month of Elul in a way that even a Jew, especially a Jew in the Midbar, is stimulated to, and he says why? Kaidei HaTshuva di Yisrael, because through the level of Tshuva v'Yid, Shayotchil B'tachas Sadichuk, it was the ultimate distance. He's in Midbar. Mizgala Yosef. This reveals even more. It's a greater accomplishment because then it shows that the real will of a Jew Gam b'shas hachet, even at the time of sin, is belokus, is to be with godliness. Rak sheyitzra who should talk from, but the Yetzer Hara is what's, like the Rambam says, the Yetzer Hara is what's forcing them to do evil. That means the ultimate goal, what Hashem wants to show with Melech Basada coming to all the levels, He wants to show that even the ultimate level is Hashem, by coming into the field, is showing that even a Jew in Midbar, at the time they're sinning, even while you're sinning, the real essence of the Jew is to be connected to Hashem. At the time of sin, like he says, Gam b'shas hachet is to elokus, like she yitzrim will be talk from the Rambam, like the Rambam writes, the Yetzer Hara is screaming at them, and like we mentioned this yesterday, Kepirshat Tzemach Tzedek, the Tzemach Tzedek says on the pasuk, we mentioned this yesterday, Ki basade mitzvah, basade mitzvah, the guy raping the girl in this week's parsha, right? He found the girl in the field. Tzaka anayra, the girl is screaming help. Vei meshiala, and nobody's helping her, which means gam kshanayra, which is the neshama, is besad le'um is in the field of Esav, and not only that, shezagonam she'esav ish sada, hirchzebav shachav imay, is grabbing her to sin. At the time Esav is grabbing the neshama to defile her, Hine gam us, even then the neshama is screaming help. Even at the time the neshama is being defiled, gam us ratzin the neshama begedusha, v'yitze'ekas b'mar nafshin is screaming from the bitterness of her soul. Al zeh she'esav yisod machzik ba. So
we're saying this is there blocking the whole party.
Zaka Naida, the girl is screaming. And then the pasuk says, "Ve'ein meshiala," that nobody's helping her. But here the Tzemach Tzedek says, "Ayin meshiala," not ein meshiala. Ayin meshiala meaning shenim shechla Yeshua mabchinas ayin shelamayla miyishtalshus. Remember we said many times. Yeah, you have the pasuk we say it now every day. Shelamalis. Okay, simply the pasuk means I lift up my eyes to the from where is my help coming? It's a question. Where's my help coming? And the answer is the help comes from Hashem. So Chassidus says no. It's not a question, it's a statement. A Jew picks up his eyes to Hashem. May ayin, from the level of ayin, Yovei Ezri. Because ayin, Chochmah is yesh mi ayin. Chochmah is the first level of world. Ayin, therefore, is higher than worlds. Yud Gimel Midas Hadachmin. And therefore, when it says in the Gemara, Ein Mazel Yisrael, that there's no Mazel for a Jew, Chassidus says, don't read it, Ein Mazel. Ayin, Mazel Yisrael. The level of ayin is what helps the Jew. Higher than world. Meaning it's not the level of the Jews under the spell of Mazol, it's the level of ayin. So therefore, this is what he says. The Neshalik that Tzemach Tzedek explains. The Neshama is in the Sada. And he's grabbed by Esav ish Sada. Somebody wants to defile her, the Neshama. And she screams. Because even at the time of sin, the Neshama wants to be with Hashem. And therefore, Va'ayin Meshilah, what's going to save her? What's going to save the neshama of the Jew from Esav? The Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, which is Ayin. And therefore, because the real will of the Yidden, because they're rooted in the essence of Hashem, is primarily, where do you see this primarily? In a Jew that sinned, in Midbar, and now he's becoming safe from it. That's the ultimate transformation. Is Ayidei Tshuva, the Yisrael, which was first in the Tchimsad of L'Umezah, which is called Midbar. Therefore, the elevation in the Yud Gimel Midas, by coming down, the sudden to awaken the person who is primarily through these that are awakening the Jews that are ultimately far. Because as the Rebbe is explaining, the reality is the Jew is never far. Because even when outwardly they look far, is tzaka the girl is screaming, I don't want it. At the time of the Chet. It's a remarkable Chassidish concept, by the way, of Chassidus, because in Musa you don't have this. You're sitting, you're no good. Right? You have to change your midos and change your thing. Here Chassidus is coming along and saying that the reality of the situation is, at the time the Jew sins, he's still connected to Hashem. And therefore, the Rebbe explained, it says in the Gemara, Alpha Pi Shechata Yisraelhu. Even though he sinned, he's still a Jew. Right? That's the simple meaning. But it's interesting, there's a lot of names for Jews. There are Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yaakov, Yeshurun. I mean, there's a lot of different names for a Jew. The highest name of a Jew is Yisrael, generally speaking. Yisrael is the highest level of a Jew. Yisrael is Li Rosh. To switch around the letters, it's Li Rosh. It's Sar Kel, with a Yud meaning constantly. Yisrael is a very lofty level. Why does the Gemara say Alpha Bishachata Yisraelu? Should say Yehudihu, whatever. There's many different names of Jews. Why does he Alpha Bishachata Yisrael? So the answer is because even a Jew at the time he's sinning, B'shas Echet, Haise Ba'abne was trustworthy, with Hashem. And that's what the Melech Basad accomplishes primarily in Elul, that not only the Jews that are in Sada, but especially Jews that are in Midbar, they are also revealing their essence of Ein Ayin Meshiach, that the Jew is saved.
So how come there is the concept of karet?
Of what?
Karet. It's somebody that has a sin is karet.
That's the cleansing of the neshama.
But it's cut off.
Yeah, but you could do tshuva for kares.
Even for karet.
Kares, yeah, Mises Bezdin, no.
So if you do tshuva, Kares becomes unkares, you get connection?
You could do tshuva on kares. You can't do tshuva Mises Bezdin, but that's for a different reason. The Rabbi brings out a Neder Yehuda that says that why is it for kares you could do tshuva, and for Bezdin killing you, you can't do tshuva? This guy has to get stoned. He was warned, whatever, and tshuva doesn't help. Right? A guy was supposed to get malchus, lashes, yeah, and he did tshuva, doesn't help. When Bezdin punishes you, tshuva doesn't help. By kares, tshuva helps. So the Vedodi says very simple. Tshuva is really in the heart. I mean, you can have an actor that can make crocodile tears, as the expression is, and they could cry their head off, and inside they're laughing at the whole thing. Right? Tshuva is belev. Uveichin kloyes v'leiv v'meiv dekoroi. Perik Mamalef of Tanya, right? One of the 12 psukim. So tshuva is really in the heart. Now, when a guy does a crime, testified by witness, warned by witnesses, testified in Bezdin. So Bezdin, through the testimony of the witnesses, knows the guy did the crime. That's a given. Did the guy do tshuva now? We don't know. He could be crying his head off, but we don't know if he really meant it. He could be an actor. Right? So therefore, Bezdin has no choice but to kill the person. Because we don't know. It's not the pshat tshuva doesn't help. Bezdin doesn't know if he did tshuva. So they can't assume he did tshuva when there's a definite thing that he has to get killed. Kares, when Hashem kills you prematurely, or Misa b'dei Shemayim, over there you could do tshuva. Why? Because Hashem knows if you did tshuva or not.
So even at the time of karet, it's not a karet. There is hope.
Some connection.
Yeah, you could do tshuva.
Yeah, it's Kohen Gadol, always they say.
What?
Remember the one that...
80 years, and then, yeah, okay, but he did.
was able to...
He didn't do tshuva afterwards in this case. Maybe he did, or whatever. But the concept is, tshuva always helps for any sin. The only question is, Bezin doesn't know if you did tshuva, so they can't go by it. But Hashem knows if you did tshuva.
But Hashem can stop the Vedodi. Hashem knows.
Maybe it works that way. Maybe something will happen that if you did tshuva, Hashem will make that the whatever. Okay. Zahu Eitzches. Zahani Ledodi Vedodi li Rosh Tevis Elul. That's because at the beginning of the Maamar, the Rebbe asked, Elul is the Aveda Mumato L'mayla. So it's Ani Ledodi. But Vedodi li is also part of Elul. Ani Ledodi with the Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed. Ani Ledodi Vedodi li. So l'chayr, how does it work? Shebedodi li Sheberosh Tevis Elul Koi be'ikar al Gili the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim Shebe Elul. It primarily goes on the revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. But the Rebbe explained before in the Maamar, Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim are not stimulating you. They're just helping you reveal who you really are. It's not giving something new, a new revelation of godliness. All it's doing is revealing what you have already. Even though the Gilu of Yud Gimel Midas Rachma Elul is giving the strength of Ani Ledodi, keep it in Pnimius Inyanim, because in the deep level, Ani Ledodi, we're not going to get too much. Okay, we're almost done with the Maamar. The Rebbe says like this: Ani Ledodi is greater than Deidi Li. In Primis Inyanim, Ani Ledodi Aveda Sa'adam is L'mayla Mideidi Li, which is Gili M'mayla. Why? Because the whole purpose of creation is not for godly revelation. The whole purpose of creation is Dira B'Tachteinim, for a person to create the dwelling place for Hashem. The whole purpose since the beginning of creation. Vayenicheu b'Gan Eden. What is the purpose of putting an Adam in Gan Eden when he created the world and he's now, okay, here's where you're, until he messed up with the Chet. Here's where you are. La'avda u'l'shamra. For Aveda. The whole, the Rebbe is explaining, any Aveda is greater than the Gilui that follows the Avodah. Because the ultimate purpose is La'av the Adam Lamli Vale, the Pasuk in Niyuv. Or La'av the L'Shamra, the whole purpose is the person to create a Dira B'Tachteinim. It's not so much for the Gilui. Because if it's only for the Gilui is not essence. The Rebbe says in Tanya, you can't say, he quotes in Darizal, you can't say, no, I'm sorry, Darizal writes that the ultimate purpose of creation is the galus shleimeis of v'kachesim, to reveal godliness. Yeah, so the Rebbe says in Tanya, you can't say that's the ultimate purpose of creation. Because any revelation is not essence. Right? So why in the world should Hashem lower himself, lowering from essence to revelation? What's the purpose in it? It's a lower level. So what's the answer? The answer is Dira B'Tachteinim, Dira Latzmusei. The ultimate purpose of creation is to reveal the essence. Yeah? So there, and not only essence, as essence, but he says even the essence becomes greater. And that's through Aveda Sa'adam. So the truth is, Aveda Sa'adam, okay, to be continued. Aveda Sa'adam is greater than, Ani Ledodi is greater than Deidi Li. 40 days. Ani Ledodi V'Deidi Li ends with 4 yuds.